Okay, so now let's start managing the profile information. Okay, so before we start dig into our code, let's try to download a user icon wherein we're going to use it later on. So we're going to download the icon in the pixibay.com. So images and videos here can be downloaded for free. So we're going to search for user. Let's try to search. I think this looks good. So I'm going to download this one, then just click this button, and I'm just going to choose the smallest pixels, and it's about to download. Okay, na-download na natin yung user natin, and we're going to place this on our um, assets. On assets, then on images. And let's try to rename this to, sabihin natin, user icon. So we're going to use it as a default profile picture if hindi pa tayo nag-upload ng profile picture. Okay? So let me close this one. And then next is what we're going to do is to create the method on retrieving the profile information natin. So we're going to do it on our user model. So close ko na lang muna yung iba. So dito, gagawa ko ng isa pang method. Sabihin natin get public function, get profile information. So this will accept a parameter of ID, which is the user ID. And dito, gagawa tayo ng query. So ano ba yung mga query natin? So we're going to use the where clause muna, this db where. So since we're going to get the data from the user, ano ba yung mga reference natin dito? So let's check out the structure. So ito, so where user ID equals to ID. And then this db get. So the get will be, the first parameter will be the table name. And then we're going to pass it to query. And then since we're going to retrieves a single record, then we're just going to use yung row. Yan. So if we're not sure yet about our code that we have made, we can check out the documentation naman. Punta tayo sa database. Ay, sa'yo. Mali. Database. Dito. Punta tayo sa query builder and selecting data. So this is how we do it. Okay? Kung row, paano masabi kung result at saka row? Nandun siya, makikita sa generating query result. Ito. Kung row, this method returns a single result row. If your query has more than one row, it returns only first row. That's the functionality of the method row. But if you want multiple results to be returned, then you must use result method. Okay? So, tama naman yung query natin. So, let's go back and try to test this one. So, I'm going to test if may laman ba yung row natin. Bakit kama I'm trying to test that one kung pwede ko namang i-return? Kasi gagamitin natin yung, or what I mean, magdadagdag tayo ng additional na mga info. Kasi yung user information pa lang, yung profile information na retrieve natin is based on the user table. Okay? Hindi pa natin kinuha yung information sa personal information na table, kung meron naman, at saka dito sa programming skill na table. So we're going to get that as well. So let me just copy this code para madali. And sabihin kong get personal information. Okay, so it also used this ID as the reference for the record, and the first data that we're going to get is from the user personal information, and then what we're going to do now is we're just going to return it here. Return lang natin. Then other than that, we're going to make as well for the programming skills. Okay, skills. Okay, so once it is already okay, dito sa ating profile information na method, tatawagin natin yung mga method na yon. So row, then since it is an object, I can make this something like that and call the method. And same thing with the other one, the programming skills. Yan. So, yung mangyayari, once we call this method, it will try to call its other information, yung personal information, tsaka yung programming skills. But of course, you're also allowed to call the individual information. Kagaya dito, if you want to get the info dito, if you want naman to get the info dito. Okay? Okay, so now let's try to call this on our controller so that we can populate the data on our table dito. So first, ano ba yung controller ko? Yung visitor portal. So, in this part, actually, yung index ko, which is yung itong part, this is the index. It also call or display the personal information. So instead of doing this, siguro I'm going to call lang muna. Let me try to comment this one. Yung personal information para isa lang yung ima-manipulate nating data. Okay? Same pa rin naman yung output. Okay, now let's proceed to the personal information. Here, let's try to load the user model. This load model, and then user model. And ano yung method? Ito yung method. Ngayon, saan manggagaling yung ID? The ID is coming from our session data. So before, we already set the session. So we can get the ID using the $_session super global variable, and then set yung user ID. So let's try to check kung tama ba. Let's proceed to the count model. Tama yung nalagay ko. Yun, tama naman yung key. And dito. Okay? So once ma-retrieve yan, and we're going to pass here the ID para ma-retrieve yung profile information. Ngayon, before we try to pass it to the view, paano ba yung let's try to debug muna. Kung tama ba yung data na ma-retrieve natin. Sabihin natin this is user. Or perhaps sabihin natin profile. Yan. So we can use bar dump for this one to test if meron bang data. Okay, and refresh. Yun, meron namang data. But unfortunately, hindi siya ganon ka magandang tingnan. I think let's try to do this one. Yung pre-tag. Usually, ito yung ginagamit ko if I'm trying to debug na mas mainam siyang basahin yung mga data. Then return true para hindi siya mag-display agad. Nakatago siya. And let's try to view page source para makita natin. Ito yung naka-pre-tag. So, as you will notice, mas mainam siyang tingnan comparing to this one. Readable siya. Okay. So, I guess let's try to create a helper, guys, so that we can easily utilize this one, especially if we're trying to debug some codes. Okay, so let's check out muna yung helpers. Paano ba yung sinasabing helper? Paano gumawa ng custom helper? Hanap lang tayo ng helpers. You can make your custom helpers. Autoload. Wait, extending helper. Using helper, extending helper. So to extend helpers, create a file in your helpers folder with an identical name to existing helper, but prefix with my. This item is configurable, see below. Pero what if I want to make my own helper? Saan na ba yun? Kasi if I'm not mistaken, to make my own helper, all we need to do is to create a file. Hindi ko mahanap. To create a file within the helper dito. And just copy lang tayo nito ng code. Then save natin to as yung helper natin na gusto. Sabihin natin profile. Then yung importanteng keyword dito is yung word na helper. This is necessary daw. Helper.php. Yan. And save natin yan. And we're going to auto-load this one. Dito sa auto-load, hanapin natin yung helpers. Yung helper. Then profile. Helper. So, ano ba yung mangyari if we've already done that? Now, we can create functions. Mga simple functions. Sabihin natin yung gusto kong gawin is yung DD or the definition define or define definition. Then, I'm going to do this one. So, I need to accept a data coming from the user. So, instead of rewriting this code, all we need to do is to call DD, then pass the data that we want to debug. So, I'm in DD, then profile. And save. Yan. Dito pa rin. Hindi mo masyadong makita. View page source natin. And nandito pa rin yung result. So, that's how we can use yung mga helper natin. If there are instance functions na gusto nating implement on our application. So, ngayon, let's try to pass this to our view. So, ano yung gagawin natin? We're going to make an array. And ito yung ipapasa natin papunta sa view. Then, pasa ko na lang dito sa header part. Kahit isa lang. Hindi mo na kailangan ipasa individually. Okay, so if we do that, let's try to check it out on our part of the model. Actually, it will not yet display. But if we're going to go to our view file on our personal information, and then here, let's try to DD the profile. Yan. So this is the result. So as you will notice, it's more readable comparing to bar dump. Okay. So as you will notice here, we don't have yet for personal information. All we have is this data here. Okay. So ano yung gagawin natin? Ano yung i-display lang muna natin? We can display yung first name, middle name, last name, if it has an extension. And then sabihin natin yung, I think hindi na kailangan yung role at saka yung username kasi that is for his account naman. So, basically, yung display natin is yung profile information. But since it doesn't have any data yet, then hindi natin ma-display yung data. But maglalagay tayong label. Okay? So, let's start here. Profile. Access yung first name. Then, yung name. Then, we have the name. Then, of course, the suffix name. X name. Try to check. So, wala akong suffix. Then, yung ibang information actually will depend on this one. Date of birth, place of birth. What if we created a default data that we can pass in the part of the model para at least kung wala siyang data, i-return natin parang empty lang. So let's try that one. So ganito, if empty yung row, kung may laman, so let's try to check. If empty to, then gagawa tayo ng panibagong row. Sabihin nating array lang muna, then i-convert na lang natin to object. Kasi object yung row. We can make sure na object siya. Ang ganun. Then, we can pass yung, sabihin natin yung POB. I mean POB, DOB. So, POB is next. And then, gender. Civil status. Email. And then, contact number. And the last one will be the photo. Type ko na lang. Okay, so let's try to check this out sa personal information natin. So, wala pa ring data na napasa. Personal info object. Mali. Dapat if hindi not empty, if empty. If walang laman, that's the only part na i-manage natin to. Yan. So at least hindi tayo magkakaroon ng error on setting this data. What I mean with that na kasi yung mangyayari, if we're going to display it in our personal information, we need to check if may laman ba o wala yung personal info na array or object. So what will happen, it might cause some error na undefined variable, mga ganon. So to avoid that one, we already set some default data if ever hindi mahanap yung wala pang result. Ngayon, we're going to do it as well on the programming skills. So ano ba yung field sa programming skills? So ito yung mga field niya. Programming skills, programming languages rather, back-end frameworks, and then yung front-end frameworks. Yan. So let's try to check it again. Yan. So we can display this one naman on the part of the programming skills. But since we are about to display only the personal information, then dito lang tayo nakafocus. But if we need to display yung programming skill, then we can naman. Okay, so the next step is let's continue managing this one. So what are the data needed? So I need POB. So wait, it is an object pointing to this one. Then this is also an object. Yeah. So if you are not familiar yet when managing object, you can just search lang now on internet. On the internet, you can read about those object arrays, just a data type, something like just like array, email, and contact number. So for the photo, we're not going to display it here. We're going to manage it in different approach. So let's start with the date of birth. Then the next is place of birth. Then gender. Then civil status. And then email address. And the last one is contact number. Okay, so let's try to refresh and check it out here. So wala siyang mga data. Kasi hindi po naman tayo naglagay. So let me try to remove this one. Okay, so I have something in my mind. What if let's try to change this one, yung name. Sabihin natin gawin kong full name instead of doing that. Okay, so since we already have yung helper natin, I think we can manage it up here. So to create full name. So ano yung mga parameter na kakailanganin natin? We require of course yung first name. Let's start with the L name, yung tama na yun, tama na. Yung for F name, yung M name, yung L name, at saka yung X name. So, I'm not going to be strict on that part. So, kung walang laman, okay lang. Name. Dapat meron name kahit pa paano. Okay. So, let's try to manage this one. So, going to create a name. Of course, it is organized through F name. Then, concatenate with the middle name. And then concatenate it with L name. Then for the X name, we're going to check na if merong bang laman, if not empty yung name, then that's the only time na we're going to concatenate yung X name. Yan. Now, dito naman, yung middle name, I guess it should be middle initial lang. Sabihin natin if not empty yung M name, and let's try to declare a MI or middle initial, then we're going to get the first letter lang, first character niya. So to do that, para ganun lang, it will serve as an array pagdating sa string. Then I would like to concatenate it with, dito na lang, with a dot period. And ito yung isasali natin dito. Okay? Then, after doing that, let's try to return the name. So, if mag-work yung create full name na helper natin, then mag-display lang yung name. So, let's go back to the personal information and let's try it here. Baba ko lang muna to. So, name, asan na yung profile name? Okay. Then, yung M name. Then, yung L name. At saka, yung X name. So, refresh. Yan. Kaso, merong kama. Kasi since empty, dapat walang kama. Mali. If, I need also to check this one. If not empty yung name and not empty yung X name. Let's try to refresh again. Yan. Okay, we have already the full name. So we can remove this one already here and change this to name. And yung gusto ko mangyari, I want it to be bigger, yung name niya, instead of just a simple text. Okay, refresh. Malaki masyado. Wag na lang. Wag ko na lang H3. Span ko na lang. And then, i-manipulate ko na lang yung style, yung font size niya. Sabihin kong 20 pixels. Yan, kahit pa paano, lumaki siya ng bagya. If you want to make it bigger, then you can. Sabihin natin 25. Yan. Pero parang mali ito. So, isama natin sa laki. Yan, name is Raymond M. Dilo. Then for the other information, then it will be displayed on this part. Okay? So that's how we can handle yung dito. Then let's proceed naman to the dun sa programming skills. So basically we're going to remove this one and yung mga data dito kasi babaguhin natin yan. So same process, we're going to copy this one and dito pwede na rin natin tawagin instead of profile information is we can call yung programming skills lang. So nasa sa inyo na guys kung ano yung setup na i-implement nyo. So sabihin natin, sana yung model. Na-close ko yung model. Dito tayo sa model, user model. Nandun pala. Okay. Okay, so ito yung tatawagin ko. Now, if I'm going to sabihin kong skills lang instead na profile, and let's try to dd that one. Okay. Undefined variable skills. Sorry. Hindi ko pa pinasa yung data. It should be passed to the view. Okay. Yan. So, just like with the profile information, it doesn't have any data yet. But, I guess let me try to copy this one. I'm being lazy na naman. And let's try to... Saan na ba yung key na ginamit ko? Programming skills. Then, change ko to. And then, dito will be the programming languages, backend framework, and then gender. I mean front-end framework. So let's try to rename this one to programming languages, and then we have the backend frameworks. Okay. Then front-end frameworks. Okay. So let's try to refresh. Undefined profile. Oh yes, tama. It's not profile anymore. It is skills. My bad. There's still an error. Wala nang programming skills. So I was directly calling the... I'm trying to call directly the skills. It doesn't go to the profile. I still have error. Trying to get object of non-object. 9. So hindi daw siya object. So let's try to debug. So the good thing about using bar dump is that we can check yung data type. So array nga. So tama rin dito, no? It is an array. Hindi siya... So ba't siya naging array? So let's try to check yung user model. We didn't cast the result. It should be object. Yan. Okay? Saan na yun? So it will not work. Okay, so it will work now. So aside from it, I need to have the length here with about 150 pixels. Dagdagan ko pa. Yan. So later on, once we already have functionality for editing, we can populate the data here now.